Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Such a wonderful opportunity to have you here today. It's such a lovely day. Unfortunately, we meet during this time when the circumstances are forcing us to be more vigilant when it comes to safety and looking after ourselves to stay safe all the time. My name is Thamo Mzobe. I'm happy to take you through my case study on the unseen civil society organization, how health pandemic has revealed the value of the organized community development programs and how through the partnerships they were economically uplifted during these tough times. I want to start by taking through the process of why the democratic states are so successful. Mainly it's because it's defined around three critical sectors that contribute to its sustainability, which is government, business, and civil society. The civil society organizations are voluntary entities that champion social change. However, they are very hidden in most cases as a third leg of the three-legged pot, which we term Zulu pot. Yet they are very key in driving advocacy on welfare and development programs. As our own icon, President Mandela once said, open quote, if you talk to a man in a language that he understands, but if you talk to a man in his language, that goes to his heart. So what is critical here is talking a language that is going to be going to the hearts of the community that you seek to address. They are often not seen, yet they are the central extended arm of government in implementing welfare programs and developmental programs. In saying so, we've come to understand that government alone cannot change the landscape of poverty, unemployment, and the poverty and challenges that face the country at large. However, these civil society are the arms in terms of implementing the billions worth of investment that comes from the government only because they speak the language of the poor and vulnerable communities. Business invest their CSIs as well to deserving communities through these civil society organizations. The pandemic has brought us to a position to understand the strength of the civil society sector, mainly the ones that are led by women. As we might all know, that mainly the poverty issues affect the women because the women are the catalyst of bringing about changes in the families to the basic needs of the community during the time of crisis. The value of being a critical sector was once more tested when the country went on total lockdown. These civil society organizations became the backbone of the country in deploying their volunteers on the front line to ensure that there is food security in thousands of poor and vulnerable households, and the vulnerable communities had to be in the lockdown. Only the CSO had to navigate as champions and captains of the communities. It became evident that only they understood the map of the pandemic. They carried the evident and Olympic torch and carried upon their shoulders as much needed aid of distribution of food parcels, medical support, and all that was brought about from government and business to respond to the challenges of the pandemic. A total of 200 national development agency supported civil society organizations joined the fray in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic by deploying 2,000 volunteers, of which the 70% of these volunteers were pure women, young women in the main. These had to cover the space or the spatial of 52 districts in the country in alignment with the district model that is pronounced by the President Cyril Ramaphosa. In the 3 months alone, 96,469 households benefited from the services ranging from food parcels, the advocacy on health matters, where more than 60,000 of brochures were also distributed. These brochures were firstly translated by the very civil society organizations to the language that is understood by the local communities. Only the civil society could occupy the space when business was on the total lockdown, when government was on the total lockdown. They became the foot soldiers. It is these volunteers who assisted millions of successful grant applicants to access the grant relief of 350, which was implemented through SASSA. To say more, these are the young women and young men who have been unemployed during their time where the country was functioning and active. The landscape that is being championed by the civil society has proven to us that such crises produce resilient societies, and the COVID-19 has proved that this is real. Whilst the first wave of the lockdown hit all the sectors of the economic sector, not all was lost. The women-led textile cooperatives, which are part of the civil society organization, sprang into action to produce the compliant cloth mask, as we might know that the main surgical mask had to be reserved for the medical team, who were also in the front line of assisting in making sure of taking care of the health welfare of our communities. These are the women who have been producing school uniform during the normal times of the country, who had now to step up and make this compliant cloth mask. They became producers of the PPEs for themselves and their communities. In partnership with National Development Agency, these CSO were linked to various opportunities through government department and businesses. The NDA created work opportunities by providing stipends to these 2,000 volunteers that I highlighted earlier to ensure that during the period of the total lockdown level 5 and level 4, when it was being staggered, these could also benefit in terms of getting income while they were laid off in terms of their job opportunities. They created work opportunities to an average of 5 indirect beneficiaries per volunteer that is participating in the program, thereby ensuring that about 10,000 individuals were sustained during the levels of the lockdown. The health catastrophe had proved that the country has a capacity to ensure that everyone is food secured. Isn't it a wonderful story that out of the midst of the storm, out of the midst of this pandemic, one thing and one thing only that kept us going, the spirit of Ubuntu. The amount of food that came through from business in collaboration with other donors and was distributed through CSOs is a testimony to the power of partnerships and collaboration. And the government alone couldn't have done it. Business alone couldn't have done it. And civil society alone couldn't have done it. Hence, we talk of the three-legged porch that if we collaborate together, we can fight the scourge of poverty together. We can fight the scourge of unemployment together. We can be a very strong, resilient country. These are part of the interventions that was done in collaboration with civil society, government, and business to ensuring that people were getting information on time, in the languages, in their local areas, because you can remember that they couldn't move, they couldn't travel. However, information as pronounced by government through regulations, through directive, had to keep on getting into their ears, had to expression to their hearts. At the same time, they had to be fed. We can understand that the soup kitchen had closed, the ECD sectors had been closed, but the generosity of the private sector, the business, and the donors, independent donors, came in the forefront of saying, here we are, the volunteers were able to take this food to the relevant and respective household. The partnership of these volunteer programs has shown us that the demand on the social security system, the gender-based violence, the feeding scheme, and early childhood development programs has reached a stressful proportion. It was only the strength of the partnership between government and the civil society that triggered business to step up in their interventions, and social compact proved to be beneficial in balancing the act for survival. The highly anticipated emergency resources, which were mainly food, were distributed like I've highlighted earlier. We have seen that the country is food secured only if we collaborate, only if we partner, only if we share our resources. We'll be able to fight the pandemic of poverty, the pandemic of inequality, and the pandemic of the health disease themselves. The CSO volunteer program was very strong in emphasizing on advocacy and education. The NDA facilitated grant funding to expedite the process to ensure that all those civil society that are in the forefront of gender-based violence and fighting the scourge of gender-based violence had to receive their grant funds so that they could proceed with their programs in fighting the scourge of gender-based violence, which was exacerbated by, of course, being locked down with your partner whom you have lost for some time due to the work environment and other issues that might have made you to be separated. Mass media platforms were used as this is an important factor in bringing out the behavioral change which may get missed in community-based intervention due to their limited reach. The change in behavior that has been brought about by COVID has taught us a lesson that we need to complement each other in order to complete the ecosystem. These behavioral change interventions need to be measured for their effectiveness going forward through well-defined social compact program with strategies, target audiences, messages, and platforms to deliver the programs. These are some of the opportunities that has been brought about by the pandemic itself and the ability of everyone within this tripartite that I've highlighted, which is private sector, which is business, which is government, and civil society organizations. Business partnership, which we call it CSO business partnership success in feeding the nation thus far, was brought about by the strong coordination. However, more success depends on the strength of the partners, their shared interest, pursuit of individual interests, as well as collectively created value of the whole. In the face of the COVID-19, collective effort to fight hunger in identified hotspots for food security call for a ramped-up collective approach from partnerships. However, despite the dependency, the CSO are seen as less powerful than business. As they always say, cash is king. This has brought to bear the reality of inequality in our society. The lesson learned during this period is that collective could help identify and therefore strengthen the collective leadership capacity of a group of actors. In conclusion, I would like to challenge every one of us in that business should be the transparent in their planning, systems, and processes that benefit civil society organizations for impactful programs. This will assist in holding all the partners accountable for their interventions and value add in improving the lives of the communities. We need to seize this opportunity to lead collectively and potential that lies in partnerships of collaborative ecosystem. We could shift human evolution into a new definition of progress. I believe, and I strongly believe, we have sufficient money in terms of resources. We're a rich country. We have able, willing, capable communities driven through civil society organization. And we have a strong, resilient government that if we collaborate, if we partner, indeed, we can fight the scourge and the pandemic of poverty, pandemic of unemployment, and pandemic of inequality. A very different South Africa and world await us. The greatest test will be our willingness to embrace change. Let us rise and stand as one family and nation to build a new and a stronger society. Those are the quotations from our very own President, Matamela, President Cyril Ramaphosa. I thank you. I hope you'll enjoy the session, and I'm here to engage and take you through, I think, the minds that we can bring together, ideas, and the willingness in the spirit of Ubuntu will assist us navigate this stormy weather, and together we'll achieve a united country post the pandemic. I thank you.